Chapter 1: The Cold Vow and the Crash. The moment I signed the divorce papers, Chris's car crashed in the rain-soaked night, and I caught the last fleeting whiff of his scent, pine wood and ash, sharp and intoxicating. It was the only thing he'd left me in 3 years of marriage, a ghost of an alpha who'd never truly been mine. My pen hovered over the dotted line in the dimly lit study of the Ashford family estate, the weight of the moment sinking into my bones. The mahogany desk gleamed under the chandelier's golden glow, and the air smelled of old leather and my own bitter omega pheromones, lavender edged with despair. I pressed the ink into the paper, my signature a jagged scar across the page, and felt nothing. No relief, no triumph. Just an ache I couldn't name. Chris had signed an hour earlier, his broad shoulders hunched over the same desk, his dark hair falling into his eyes. He didn't look at me, not once. His alpha scent had filled the room, oppressive and distant, like a storm I could see but never touch. "It's done," he'd said, voice low and clipped, before grabbing his coat and walking out into the drizzle. Done. 3 years of forced vows, silent dinners, and a bed that stayed cold even when he slept beside me, gone with a single word. I'd wanted to scream at him, to demand why he'd let our marriage rot, but I didn't. I was Eric Ashford, heir to a pharmaceutical empire, not some lovesick fool. Not anymore. I was still staring at the papers when my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with an unknown number, and I almost ignored it. Almost? "Mr. Ashford?" A woman's voice crackled through, clipped and urgent. "This is Mass General Hospital. Your husband's been in an accident. He's alive, but you should come now." My heart stuttered, then plummeted. Husband. The word felt like a mockery, but my body moved before my mind could catch up. I grabbed my keys, the divorce papers fluttering to the floor, and ran. The hospital was a sterile maze of white walls and antiseptic stench, a stark contrast to the chaos in my head. My loafers clicked against the linoleum as I followed a nurse to room 312. My pulse hammered in my throat, and my omega instincts clawed at me. "Protect him, find him, he's yours." I shoved them down. He wasn't mine. Not anymore. The door swung open, and there he was, Chris, sprawled across a hospital bed, a bandage wrapped around his forehead, his black hair mussed against the pillow. His chest rose and fell steadily, and for a moment I just stood there, drinking him in. His sharp jaw, the faint scar above his eyebrow, the way his lips parted slightly as he breathed. Even broken, he was beautiful. Then his eyes fluttered open, deep brown, molten with something I hadn't seen in years. "Eric." His voice was hoarse, but it trembled with a warmth that stabbed me. Before I could respond, he reached out, his large hand closing around mine with a strength that made my knees buckle. "Babe, you're here? Babe." The word hit me like a punch, knocking the air from my lungs. I froze, my fingers trapped in his grip, his skin fever-hot against mine. His scent surged, pinewood now laced with something softer, something desperate, and it coiled around me, tugging at every buried instinct I'd fought to suppress. "Chris, what?" I started, but he cut me off, pulling my hand to his cheek. His stubble grazed my knuckles, and his eyes locked onto mine, wide and unguarded. "You smell so good," he murmured, nuzzling my wrist like a damn puppy. "Lavender. God, how do I ever leave you?" My brain short-circuited. This wasn't Chris. Not the Chris who'd barely spoken to me in 3 years, who'd slept on the couch more nights than I could count, who'd signed our divorce papers without a flicker of regret. This was someone else. "Mr. Ashford?" A voice broke through the haze. I yanked my hand back, turning to face a doctor in a white coat, Dr. Miller, his badge red. He was middle-aged, with sharp eyes and a faint smirk. "He's got amnesia," he said, glancing at Chris, who was now pouting at me like I'd stolen his favorite toy. "Retrograde, likely temporary. Car hit a pole, mild concussion. He remembers his name, but everything else? Patchy. Seems he's latched onto you as his anchor." "His anchor?" I echoed, my voice sharper than intended. Dr. Miller shrugged. "Happens with alphas sometimes. Their instincts kick in when their memory's scrambled. He's convinced you're his mate." "Mate?" The word twisted in my gut, bitter and sweet. I wanted to laugh or maybe cry. 3 years of him shutting me out, and now this? "He's wrong," I said flatly. "We're divorced. As of tonight." Chris's head snapped up, his pout deepening. "Divorced? No way. I'd never." He tried to sit up, winced, and grabbed my arm again. "Eric, don't mess with me. I'd remember losing you." His voice cracked and damn it, my chest tightened. I could feel his alpha pheromones wrapping around me, pulling me in, and my own scent flared in response, lavender spiking with confusion, with want. I hated it. Hated him. Hated myself more. Lie back down, I snapped, shoving him gently against the pillows. He obeyed, but his eyes never left mine, pleading, searching. You don't remember anything? I asked, softer now, unable to stop myself. He shook his head, then grinned, a crooked, boyish grin I'd never seen before. I remember you. Your voice. Your smell. That's enough, right? My throat closed up. It wasn't enough. It hadn't been for years. Dr. Miller cleared his throat. We'll run more tests tomorrow. For now, he needs rest, and you, Mr. Ashford, might want to stick around. He's calmer with you here. I opened my mouth to argue, but Chris's hand tightened on mine, his thumb brushing over my pulse point. Stay, he whispered. Please. I should have said no. Should have walked out and let the divorce stand. But my body betrayed me, sinking into the chair beside his bed, my hands still caught in his. The room fell silent, save for the beep of the monitor and the rain tapping the window. I stared at him, my husband, my stranger, and felt the cracks in my resolve widen. 3 years of silence had built a wall between us, brick by brick. Now, with one crash, he'd torn it down, and I didn't know if I could rebuild it. His scent lingered in the air, warm and alive, and for the first time in forever, I let myself breathe it in. Chapter 2: The Kiss Prescription. The hospital corridor smelled like bleach and despair, but all I could focus on was Chris's hand still wrapped around mine, his thumb tracing circles over my wrist. His touch burned, a slow smolder that crept up my arm and settled in my chest. It was day 2 of this nightmare, his amnesia, his sudden devotion, and I hadn't slept. My reflection in the window across from his room showed it. Pale skin, shadowed eyes, gold hair, must from running my hands through it too many times. I looked like hell, but Chris kept staring at me like I was the goddamn sun. Eric, he murmured, his voice rough from sleep. He'd woken up 10 minutes ago, grinning at me from the hospital bed like we were on some romantic getaway instead of a sterile ward. You stayed. His dark eyes softened, and his alpha scent, pinewood and ash, now edged with something sweet like honey, rolled over me in waves. My omega instincts purred, traitorously eager, and I clenched my jaw to shut them up. I didn't have a choice, I said, pulling my hand free and crossing my arms. His pout was instant, lips parting in a way that made my stomach flip. The doctor said you'd freak out if I left. It was half true. Dr. Miller had cornered me earlier, his smirk infuriatingly smug. He's imprinted on you, he'd said, adjusting his glasses. Alphas do that post-trauma sometimes. Thinks you're his lifeline. Best not to stress him, might delay recovery. Then he'd drop the bombshell, physical contact helps. Kissing even triggers memory pathways. I'd stared at him, dumbfounded, and he'd laughed. Just a suggestion. I hadn't told Chris that part. No way in hell. But now, watching him prop himself up on his elbows, his hospital gown slipping to reveal the hard line of his collarbone, I wondered if I'd have to. You're mad at me, he said, tilting his head. His hair fell into his eyes, and he brushed it back with a wince. His ribs were bruised from the crash. Did I do something stupid before the accident? I snorted, bitter and sharp. You could say that. 3 years of it, actually, ignoring me, sleeping in the guest room, treating me like a business deal instead of a husband. But he didn't remember, and I wasn't sure if that made it better or worse. Just rest, Chris. You need it. I turned to grab my coffee from the bedside table, but his hand shot out, catching my wrist again. Don't go, he said, and the desperation in his voice pinned me in place. I don't know what's real right now, but you feel real. His grip tightened and his scent spiked, thick and possessive. My knees wobbled and I cursed my biology. Omega pheromones flared in response, lavender curling into the air, soft and needy, and his nostrils flared. Fuck, Eric, he growled, low and raw. You smell like mine. Before I could snap at him, he yanked me forward. I stumbled, catching myself on the bed's edge, my face inches from his. His breath was hot against my lips, and his free hand slid to my neck, fingers brushing my pulse. Chris, stop, I started, but he didn't. He surged up, crashing his mouth into mine, and the world tilted. His lips were firm, insistent, prying mine apart with a hunger that stole my breath. His tongue swept in, tasting me, claiming me, and his alpha growl vibrated through my chest. My hands fisted in his gown, meaning to push him away, but they didn't. They pulled him closer. His scent enveloped me, pinewood searing my lungs, and my own pheromones answered, wild and unchecked. His hand slid down my back, tugging at my shirt, and buttons popped free, exposing my chest. His mouth moved to my neck, teeth grazing the sensitive spot where my mating gland pulsed, and I gasped, heat pooling low in my gut. "Chris," I choked out, but he bit down, not hard enough to mark, just enough to make me shudder. "You're mine," he rasped against my skin. "I don't care what I forgot. I know this." Reason snapped back like a rubber band. I shoved him off, stumbling back into the corridor, my shirt half open, my breath ragged. He stared at me, chest heaving, eyes dark with want. "Eric, wait," he called, but the door swung shut behind me. I pressed my back to the wall, heart pounding, my lips tingling from his taste, salt and heat, and him. What the hell was I doing? He wasn't my Chris. My Chris didn't kiss me, didn't look at me like that. This was a lie, a cruel trick of his broken mind, and I'd let it unravel me. Footsteps echoed down the hall, and I straightened, smoothing my hair just as a familiar figure appeared. Tony. His beta scent hit me first, cloying citrus, too sharp to be pleasant, and his smirk followed. "Eric," he said, voice dripping with fake concern. "I heard about Chris. How is he?" He stepped closer, peering through the door's window at Chris, who was now glaring at him with narrowed eyes. "He's fine," I said curtly, buttoning my shirt. Tony's gaze lingered on my neck where Chris's teeth had left a faint red mark. "Rough night?" he asked, arching a brow. I glared at him. Tony had been Chris's shadow since we married, his best friend, his white moonlight, always hovering with those sly smiles and subtle jabs. I'd never liked him, but Chris had defended him every time. His parents died saving me, he'd said once, shutting down my complaints. Now, Tony's presence felt like a splinter under my skin. "He doesn't remember much," I said, keeping my tone flat. "Thinks we're still." I stopped, the word in love too heavy to spit out. Tony's eyes gleamed. "Oh? That's convenient. You two were always so close." The insinuation slithered into the air, and my fists clenched. Before I could retort, Chris's voice boomed from the room. "Eric, get back here." Tony chuckled, stepping past me. "I'll check on him. You look like you need a break." I watched him slip inside, my stomach twisting. Chris's confused frown softened into recognition as Tony approached, and a pang of something ugly, jealousy, stabbed me. Tony leaned in, whispering something, and Chris's gaze flicked to me through the glass, uncertain now. Doubt crept in, cold and familiar. What if Tony turned this delusion against me? What if Chris believed him over me like he always had? I turned away, my lips still burning, my scent clinging to the memory of that kiss. I'd wanted it, God help me, I'd wanted him, and that scared me more than anything. Chapter 3. The Shattered Truth. The rain came down in sheets, hammering the hospital parking lot as I stood under the awning, my breath fogging in the chilly night air. It had been a week since Chris's crash, a week of his amnesia-fueled adoration and that damn kiss that still haunted me. His lips on mine, his teeth grazing my neck, his scent sinking into my skin. I'd avoided his room all day, dodging his pleading texts. "Where are you, babe? I miss you." Because every word chipped away at the walls I'd built over 3 years. But Dr. Miller had called an hour ago, voice tight. "He's remembering fragments. You should be here." So here I was, soaked shoes and all, my heart a tangled mess of dread and hope. Inside, the hospital buzzed with late-night quiet. Muted beeps, the shuffle of nurses, the antiseptic tang biting my nose. My omega scent flared as I neared room 312, lavender threading with anxiety, and I hated how it betrayed me. I pushed the door open, and there he was, Chris, sitting on the edge of the bed, his broad frame hunched, hospital gown swapped for a black sweater and jeans. He looked sharper, less dazed, his dark hair swept back, his jaw tight. His eyes snapped to me, and the air shifted. His alpha pheromones surged, pinewood and ash, but heavier now, laced with something raw and conflicted. "Eric," he said, standing too fast. He winced, clutching his side, but his gaze didn't falter. "You're here." No babe this time, no boyish grin. His voice was steady, cautious, and it sent a shiver down my spine. You remember? I said, more statement than question, my arms crossing like armor. He nodded, slow and deliberate. Bits and pieces. The crash. The company. You. He stepped closer, and I tensed, the memory of his kiss flashing hot and unbidden. I remember signing something. Divorce papers, right? My throat tightened, and I forced a nod. Yeah, the night you crashed. It's done. The lie stung. Technically, the 6-month cooling-off period had just started, but I needed the distance, the finality. His face crumpled, just for a second, before he masked it with that cold alpha composure I knew too well. I see, he said, turning to the window. Rain streaked the glass, blurring the city lights beyond, and his reflection showed a man I'd once loved, now a stranger again. Silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, until he spoke again, voice low. I fucked up, didn't I? Before this. He gestured to his head, the bandage gone but a faint bruise still shadowing his temple. I wanted to laugh, to scream 3 years of fucking up, and he thought it was one moment. But I just shrugged. You could say that. He turned back to me, eyes searching mine. Tell me. I need to know. I opened my mouth, ready to unload it all. The nights I'd waited for him, the dinners I'd eaten alone, the way he'd flinched from my touch. But a knock interrupted. The door swung open and Mr. Dawson, our family lawyer, stepped in, his gray suit pristine despite the hour. Mr. Ashford, Mr. Langston, he said, nodding to us both. I've got news. He held up a folder, and my stomach sank. Chris's company, Langston Enterprises, had been teetering for months, but the crash had triggered a cascade. Bankruptcy, Dawson said flatly. Creditors are circling. You've got debts in the 8 figures. Chris's jaw clenched, his sense spiking with anger, and I felt it. His alpha pride cracking under the weight. I'll handle it, he said, voice like steel. Alone. Dawson raised a brow, then glanced at me. There's more. These came up during the filing. He pulled a photo from the folder and slid it across the bed. My breath caught. It was me, shirtless, laughing, an arm around some guy at a bar. A fake. I'd never seen that man in my life, but the timestamp read 2 years ago, mid-marriage. What the hell is this? I snatched it up, my hands shaking. Chris grabbed it next, his eyes darkening as he studied it. Eric. His voice was a growl, low and dangerous, and suddenly I was back in our old fights. Him accusing, me defending, Tony's lies festering between us. It's not real, I snapped, glaring at Dawson. Who gave you this? The lawyer shrugged. Anonymous tip. Came with the divorce docs. Thought you should know. Chris's silence was worse than any shout. He crumpled the photo, his knuckles white, and when he looked at me, his eyes were storm clouds. 3 years, he said, barely audible. I thought you cheated. That's why He trailed off and the pieces clicked. The coldness, the distance, the way he'd stared at me like I'd betrayed him. He'd believed Tony's poison, and I'd paid for it. Chris, I started, but he shook his head, stepping back. I need air. He grabbed his coat and stormed out, leaving me with Dawson and a hollow ache. The lawyer sighed. He's a mess, Eric. Give him time. Time. I'd given him 3 years, and now this. I found him hours later, after the rain had slowed to a drizzle, in an alley near the hospital. He was soaked, leaning against a brick wall, his sweater clinging to his chest, his hair plastered to his forehead. He looked broken. My alpha, my husband, and my heart twisted. I stepped closer, umbrella shielding us both, and his scent hit me. Pine wood drowned in sorrow. "Chris," I said, soft but firm. He looked up, eyes red-rimmed, and I saw it. The man I'd married, stripped bare. "I'm sorry," he whispered, voice cracking. "I fucked up everything. I should have walked away, let him drown in his guilt, but my umbrella tilted over him, shielding him from the rain. My alpha's been wronged," I said, stepping closer, our scents tangling, lavender and pine, alive and electric. "I had to come." His hand reached for mine, hesitant, and when our fingers brushed, heat flared between us. The photo, the bankruptcy, the lies, they could wait. For now he was here and so was I. Chapter 4. The Night of Reckoning. The divorce papers were official, stamped, sealed, delivered to my inbox at 9:03 p.m. on a Thursday. 6 months of the cooling-off period had crawled by since the crash, and now it was done. I sat in my penthouse office, the Boston skyline glittering beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of bourbon untouched on the desk. My tie hung loose, my shirt unbuttoned at the collar, and my Omega scent, lavender spiked with a restless edge, curled into the air. I should have felt free. Instead, I felt hollow, like a piece of me had been carved out and shipped off with that damn certificate. Chris had disappeared after the alley. No calls, no texts, just rumors of him selling off Langston Enterprises scraps to pay the debts. I'd stayed away, burying myself in Ashford Pharma, pretending I didn't wake up every night reaching for a warmth that wasn't there. But tonight, something snapped. The finality of it, the divorce, clawed at me, and when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, "He's back. Hotel Meridian, room 1801. Drunk." I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my coat and drove. The hotel lobby was all marble and gold, the kind of place Chris used to command with a glance. Now, as I stepped into the elevator, my loafers silent on the plush carpet, I wondered what I'd find. The doors slid open on the 18th floor, and his scent hit me before I even knocked. Pinewood and ash, muddled with whiskey and desperation. The door wasn't locked. It creaked open under my touch, revealing the presidential suite in chaos. Empty bottles littered the coffee table. A lamp lay shattered on the floor, and Chris sprawled across the leather couch, shirtless, jeans unbuttoned, his chest rising and falling unevenly. "Chris," I called, stepping inside. He jolted upright, eyes bleary but sharpening when they landed on me. "Eric." His voice was a rasp, thick with liquor and something softer, relief, maybe. He stood, swaying, and I caught the glint of sweat on his skin, the way his muscles flexed under the dim light. "What are you doing here?" he asked, scrubbing a hand through his messy hair. His alpha pheromones flooded the room, wild and unguarded, and my own scent flared in response. Lavender weaving into his pine, instinctive and dangerous. "I heard you were back," I said, closing the door behind me. "You look like shit." He laughed, a broken sound, and stumbled closer. "Yeah, well, losing everything'll do that." His gaze roamed over me, my open coat, my rumpled shirt, and his pupils dilated. "You shouldn't be here," he muttered, but his hand reached out, brushing my jaw. Heat shot through me, and I grabbed his wrist, stopping him. "Then why'd you let me in?" He didn't answer. Instead, he lunged, crashing his mouth into mine with a force that knocked me back against the wall. His lips were sloppy, tasting of whiskey and want, and his hands were everywhere, tearing at my coat, yanking my shirt open, buttons scattering across the hardwood. I growled into the kiss, shoving him back, but he pulled me with him, and we hit the couch in a tangle of limbs. "Eric," he groaned, his voice a low rumble against my throat as he pinned me beneath him. His weight was heavy, his scent overwhelming, and my Omega instinct screamed. Submit, take, claim. His teeth found my neck again, nipping at my mating gland, and I arched into him, nails digging into his shoulders. "Fuck, you smell so good," he slurred, his hands sliding under my waistband, tugging my jeans down. Fabric ripped, and I didn't care. I flipped us, straddling him, my breath ragged as I tore his jeans lower, exposing the hard lines of his hips. Our pheromones clashed, pine and lavender igniting, and when he thrust up, grinding against me, I bit his lip, drawing a moan that vibrated through us both. It was messy, desperate, a collision of need and regret, and when he sank his teeth into my gland, not a full mark, just a promise. I came undone, trembling as he followed, our scents merging into something whole. We collapsed, panting, his forehead pressed to mine, his hands still clutching me like I'd vanish. The room spun, the city lights blurring through the window, and for a moment, it was just us, raw, unguarded, alive. Then he spoke, voice barely a whisper. I kept something. He rolled off me, fumbling in a duffel bag by the couch, and pulled out a leather-bound album. My heart stopped as he opened it. Photos, dozens of them, all of me sleeping, my hair splayed on the pillow, my face soft in the morning light. Dates scrawled in his handwriting every week for 3 years. You? I trailed off, flipping through the pages, my chest tight. I came home, he said, staring at the floor. Every Sunday night when you were asleep, couldn't face you awake. Thought you hated me, thought you cheated. Tony showed me that damn photo, and he choked, fists clenching. I was a coward. I set the album down, my hands shaking. Tony lied, I said, voice steady despite the storm inside. I never cheated. He wanted you, Chris. Fed you bullshit to break us. His head snapped up, eyes wide, and I saw it, realization, then rage. That bastard, he snarled, but I grabbed his face, forcing him to look at me. He's gone, and I'm here. So what now? He stared at me, his alpha pride warring with something softer, and then he kissed me. Slow this time, deliberate, his lips trembling against mine. I don't deserve you, he whispered, pulling back just enough to meet my gaze. But I want you back. Tell me how. My heart thudded, and I traced his jaw, my thumb brushing his lips. Start by staying, I said. No more running. He nodded, pulling me into his arms, and as the city hummed beyond the glass, I let myself believe we could fix this. One night, one truth at a time. Chapter 5, The Mark of Forever. The Ashford estate glowed under a late summer dusk, its sprawling lawns draped in fairy lights, the air thick with the scent of roses and anticipation. My tie felt too tight, my black tuxedo too warm, but I couldn't stop pacing the balcony overlooking the garden where our guests mingled. Family, business allies, and a handful of nosy reporters who'd caught wind of the reunion of the century. A year ago, I'd signed divorce papers in this same house, my heart a graveyard of broken vows. Now, I was waiting to marry Chris again, and every nerve in my body buzzed with equal parts dread and exhilaration. I leaned against the railing, my gold hair catching the fading sunlight, and inhaled deeply. My omega scent, lavender, steady now, no longer jagged with pain, drifted into the evening breeze. Below, Chris stood near the arbor where we'd say our vows, his broad shoulders filling out a tailored suit, his dark hair swept back. He was laughing with Dr. Miller, the bastard who'd suggested kissing as a cure, and I smirked despite myself. That kiss had unraveled us, but it had also stitched us back together, thread by thread, fight by fight, until we'd clawed our way here. Eric! His voice pulled me from my thoughts. I turned, and there he was, climbing the stairs 2 at a time, his alpha scent, pine wood and ash warm and possessive, washing over me. "You're hiding," he teased, stopping a foot away, his brown eyes glinting with mischief. "Cold feet," I snorted, straightening my tie. "Hardly, just needed air." "You're the one who looks nervous." He grinned, that crooked, boyish grin I'd fallen for twice now, and closed the distance, his hand brushing my cheek. "Only about screwing this up again," he murmured, thumb tracing my jaw. "I don't deserve you, you know." "Shut up," I said, grabbing his lapels and pulling him into a kiss. His lips were soft, familiar, but the spark was still there, electric, hungry. His hands slid to my hips, tugging me closer, and our scents tangled, lavender igniting pine. I broke away, breathless, glaring at him. "We've got an audience, idiot." He chuckled, glancing at the garden below, where a few heads had turned. "Let him watch. You're mine." The ceremony was a blur. Vows exchanged under the arbor. Rings slipped onto fingers, applause ringing out as we sealed it with a chaste kiss that promised more later. But the real moment came after, in the estate's guest suite, away from the crowd. The room was all dark wood and silk sheets, a bottle of champagne sweating on the nightstand, and Chris locked the door behind us, his gaze predatory. "Finally," he growled, shedding his jacket and stalking toward me. I backed up, smirking, until my calves hit the bed. "What's the rush, Alpha? We've got all night." He didn't answer with words. He tackled me onto the mattress, his weight pinning me as his mouth claimed mine, fierce and unyielding. His tie joined his jacket on the floor, my shirt yanked open, and his hands roamed, hot, calloused, mapping every inch of me like he'd never get enough. "Fuck, Eric," he rasped, lips trailing down my chest, teeth grazing my collarbone. "You're perfect." My omega instincts flared, needy and wild, and I arched into him, nails raking his back. "Prove it," I challenged, voice rough. He did. His fingers deftly stripped my trousers, his own following, and when he pressed himself against me, skin to skin, our pheromones exploded, pine and lavender fusing into a storm. His mouth found my mating gland, the spot he'd teased for months, and he hesitated, breath hot against my neck. "Can I?" he whispered, voice trembling with reverence. I grabbed his hair, pulling him closer. "Mark me, Chris. Make it real." His teeth sank in, sharp and deep, and I gasped, pain melting into ecstasy as his alpha claim burned through me. My own bite followed, marking his gland in return, and our scents locked, permanent, unbreakable. We collapsed, sweaty and spent, his arms caging me as the bond pulsed between us. "Mine," he murmured, kissing my forehead, my lips, my throat. "Forever." I smirked, tracing the fresh mark on his neck. Damn right. The next morning, reality crept back. Breakfast was a quiet affair in the penthouse. Coffee, toast, and the newspaper sprawled across the table. The headline screamed, "Langston heir reclaims empire, ties knot with Ashford scion." Chris had spent months rebuilding, clawing his company from the ashes with my help. Ashford Pharma's resources, my stubborn refusal to let him fail. Tony was gone, exposed as the liar he was, his green tea schemes unraveling when I'd leaked his forged evidence to the press. "He's finished," Chris said, sipping his coffee, his free hand resting on my thigh under the table. "Good riddance." "Should have punched him," I muttered, flipping the page. Chris laughed, squeezing my leg. "You're vicious, babe." "I love it." I glared, but my lips twitched. "Keep calling me babe, and I'll mark you again, publicly." His eyes darkened, a playful growl rumbling in his chest. "Promise." Later, at the registry office, we signed the new marriage certificate, our second, but the one that mattered. Mr. Dawson handed it over with a rare smile. Congrats, you two. Try not to divorce again. Chris smirked, pulling me against his side. Not a chance. We stepped outside, the city buzzing around us, and he leaned down, whispering, "This time, I'm not letting go." His scent wrapped around me, solid and sure, and I believed him. The penthouse balcony was our last stop that night, the skyline twinkling as we stood shoulder to shoulder, glasses of champagne in hand. To us, he said, clinking his glass against mine. To starting over, I corrected, sipping the bubbles. He set his drink down, turning me to face him, his hands framing my face. No, he said softly, to finishing what we started. His kiss was slow, deep, a vow in itself, and as the city faded behind us, I knew this was forever.